All right, he will join us when he is ready. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We good? All right. I'd like to call this continued meeting of the Anchorage Assembly to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Allard.
Here.
Mr. Peterson. Ms. LaPrance.
Here.
Mr. Dunbar.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Weddleton.
Here.
Mr. Constant.
Here.
Ms. Kennedy.
Here.
Mr. Perez Verdia.
Here.
Ms. Zalatel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Weddleton, if you could please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the land acknowledgement. Mr. Constant.
Thank you, sir. A land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It's a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. It's an actionable statement that marks our collective movement towards decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It's with gratitude and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you. All right, so we have one item of business on our agenda, but before we get to that, everyone should have in front of them an unnumbered AO. It's an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code, Chapter 16.60, to create a new permit for the sale of raw shell eggs. The administration had hoped to have this ready to introduce yesterday, but it was not. So since we have the opportunity today, the administration has asked us to introduce this item and set it for a public hearing on June 22nd. So can I get a motion, second, and third to do so?
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Okay, so that item will be before us on June 22nd. All right, well, so let's move on to our one item of business for today, which is reorganization. Can I get a motion to reorganize?
Move to reorganize.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, seeing none, that motion is approved. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Assembly members. We are now at reorganization, and the first thing that we do is take nominations from the floor for the office of acting chair. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Suzanne LaFrance.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for acting chair? Seeing none, the nominations are closed. We're going to still vote. As the members know, you are not required to vote for anyone nominated. You can still vote for any member. So we will go ahead and pass out the slips for voting. Thank you. For the members on the phone and the rest of the members, the minutes clerk, Travis, and I are going to go to the clerk's office. We're going to call the two members on the phone for their secret vote, so you need to disconnect. And then we will be back.
And
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, just as a point of information, it appears that Mr. Peterson is on the phone.
Oh, okay. Mr. Peterson, we'll give you a call too. Thank you. Suzanne LaFrance is the new chair.
Times have changed. That's a serious gavel.
That is cool.
Now we're talking.
All right, we are now ready to see if there are any nominations for the office of acting vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Crystal Kennedy.
I would like to nominate Christopher Constant.
We have nominations for Crystal Kennedy and Christopher Constant. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations are closed and we'll pass out the ballots. Okay, Travis and I will do the same procedure. We're going to go to the clerk's office. We're going to call the 3 members on the phone and get their secret vote. So the 3 of you can disconnect and we'll be back. Assembly members, your new acting vice chair is Christopher Constant.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for taking us through that. I just want to check and see if members are still on the phone. Ms. Kennedy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Perez-Verdia?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
And Mr. Peterson? Mr. Peterson?
God, this phone isn't working. I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Okay, that brings us to final audience participation.
Madam, oh, never mind. Did we already introduced the item? Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. That brings us to final audience participation, and we have a priority list that we'll begin with from last night. Irene Quidno, please come on up and state your name for the record. I think you know the drill. You'll have 3 minutes. Thanks. Welcome.
Hi, Irene Quidno again. Just when it seems that you're willing to listen better, and I want to thank you for the town halls and the engagement with all of that and the back and forth, and I really appreciate that. But then something like last night happens where it seems like nothing has changed. So Mr. Biggs brought over 800 documents that are input from people, and they were nowhere to be found, even though he had, in the record, even though he had brought them on before. And I have to say, I'm getting really tired of being ignored. And I think I'm not the only one. Several controversial ordinances have already been voted on, and yesterday several others have been postponed to June 22nd. Considering your track record, I expect them to be voted on before the new administration comes in, but I'm open to positive surprises. Whether you're pushing these ordinances through to force your agenda on the citizens and the new administrations, or to put a stumbling block in the path of the new administration, or simply to not want to give them the power, is really irrelevant. It just proves again that you're still not willing to act in the best interest of the Anchorage citizens. I do not know if you realize that with every single decision you make that is in opposition to the majority of the public opinion, you're putting another nail into the coffin of your political careers. The chances you will be voted into other political positions in Anchorage or even the state are getting slimmer and slimmer by your own doing. Other people have testified to that Anchorage voters will not forget. And this is not a threat, it's just a statement of fact. And lastly, and this again is not a threat, it took me a long time to get involved in politics, but thanks to you I did. And I'm here for the long run. And as long as you continue to make such controversial decisions, I will be here to call you out in it during public testimony, not as a threat, but because I have a right to do so in the process. And so I guess you're stuck with me. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation.
Chair?
Mr. Weddleton?
I had a question. So Mr. Biggs came up with a box full of letters that are things he mailed out. They were mailed back to a P.O. box that he had control over. I mean, how does that become part of our record? I mean, where does that... So we saw them, and what do we do with those? Are we supposed to scan those in or something? Is that... What does he want?
Thank you, Mr. Weddleton. Ms. Jones, would you be able to address that
Or
question?
Ms. Queasnow, if you had a...
Chair? Chair? Can I speak? Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. Sorry, I'm getting used to being called that. I'm sorry, Mr. Weddleton, your question was for Ms. Queedno?
Well, I think so, and then maybe broadly to Ms.
Okay.
Jones as well. I would just, when someone has, Mr. Biggs sent out a document to many people, he got many back, they were sent back to him. So what would you expect? You said it should be entered in the record. What would you expect us to do with that?
He emailed them to you 3 times.
So when you say he emailed the hard, he scanned them or something?
He must have in order to be able to email them, but he testified yesterday that he sent them to you by email 3 times, got a receipt that the email was received, and yet they still don't show up in the public record, and that's concerning to me.
And where is
Because
this?
if I email you with something, that gets into the record, like it shows in the minute where people send you an email, and those are listed in the minutes.
I'm not sure, I don't know that that's precisely the way. If people just email me directly to my email address, I get the email. There is a form that we use, and if something's emailed using that form, I believe it's entered into a document that's attached. The link is part of our minutes. But I don't know, I'm just curious. What do we do with 800, essentially the same pieces of paper? And I know he emailed some. I don't think I got an email that had 800 scans. Maybe, I might have missed it.
Well, and I can only go by what he said in the sense that he emailed them to you. I have seen the minutes where emails are included, where people have emailed in and voiced their opinion, and that's now part of the record.
Right.
And so my question is why, if he emailed them all to you, just like the other emails that are part of the record, why are those not part of the record? That's, I guess, is my question.
Okay, there is a place where you email a form. It goes to all of us, and those are entered in the records. But most of the emails that I get are just directly to me, and those just go in my email inbox. So it depends on how he sent it then.
Yeah, and that,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
okay.
I cannot
Sure.
answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I understand much better now. Thank you.
Yeah.
And actually, we have 2 others in the queue. Ms.
Okay.
Allard?
Thank you. Irene, I spoke to the deputy clerk, Ms. Jennifer, Jennifer B. I always have a hard time with her last name. So she had explained to me that he would have to fill out, I want to say an AIM, and then it would be a memorandum, I guess an assembly memorandum. And we did, it was a group email. It was approximately 800. They were scanned. They were in a folder. So I got a hold of Mr. Biggs today. Was it today? This morning.
Okay.
So he is going to write a little letter, and he'll send it again as an attachment. And then when I spoke to the deputy clerk yesterday, she said then it would be added into record.
Okay.
So he just missed the process. But
Okay.
he knows now, and it will be fixed.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you,
Learned
Mr.
something new
Constant.
again.
Thanks. So, Ms. Queedno, yeah, in particular, when you go through the form, you select the item on the agenda. And so that's the kind of magic that happens. If you select an item and then you submit a comment, then it's attached to that item. Because
Okay.
specifically the records are created for the item, specifically not in a general way. There's no general category of comments
Okay.
that we incorporate into the record. And he did actually send the document today. But what will show up is not 900 pages of commentary. His form had the link, and so the link will be available for any member of the public
Okay.
who sees that attachment to follow and
Yeah.
then be able to access. And
But
so,
that then is part of,
as of today,
Yeah, and that would then be part of the public record, right?
in relationship to the item, I forget which one,
Yeah.
the 2021-55, yes.
Yeah, because the link is available, so then the comments are publicly available.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because it's attached to the item number.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Wonderful.
happened today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Zelatel?
Thank you. And I was just going to note, we did receive the form, but it is as public testimony for the June 22nd meeting. So it is
Okay.
for that meeting.
Yeah.
So and that's fine since the item was
Yeah.
continued. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to add one other thing. The original document, as Mr. Weddleton noted, was emailed to the MAS Assembly members listserv email, and that email is also preserved as a public comment, and we preserve those by month and year, and we keep those for 10 years. So that record is also retained in the clerk's office for the Assembly.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next on our list, we have Anthony Latrone, and I believe we'll need to call him. Thank you, Travis.
Welcome to the voicemail of...
Okay, we'll try him back after Ron Oliva. You're next. Welcome, Mr. Oliva.
Good one, you got it. Welcome. Learned that from Felix. First of all, Ron Oliva, I'd like to congratulate the chairman, vice chairman, and also I'd like to thank Mr. Dunbar for his 5 years of service. Took a lot of dedication, a lot of time, and I have to bite my lip because I'm a little unfiltered with my comments, but I want to say from the public, it's appreciated your service. Tonight, I'm here. I can't get raw eggshells out of my head versus cooked eggshells that you need a permit for. So I'll go straight to the money. The purchase of my property, which was more or less verbalized, I'd like to say, promised to be purchased by the city, didn't transpire. And to give you a little history, I had two parcels. The parcels directly across from the old shelter ML&P bought, and good old Mr. Gates listening, it was appraised at $900,000, and Mr. Starr and one other assemblyman allocated $1.1 million because it took 4 years to purchase it. Well, it ended up, it was assessed at $865, but they only allocated $750,000. But then Robin Ward and the attorney there said, well, listen, Mr. Oliva, you sell this parcel. Right after the first of the year, we're going to buy your other parcels. We'll add back in the shortfall of the 150 or 250,000 that should have been paid for the ML&P parcels. So we signed a letter of intent. That didn't occur in the spring of 2019, and then it got rolled to 2020. And then, well, they said they didn't have any money. Voila! 22.7 million showed up for 4 other parcels. And they even put on a contingency on my parcels for a $50,000 study. Everything was approved. And, well, you bought 3 other parcels and mine's still in limbo. But during that time, I ran out of the holding money because of previous lawsuits and other issues, including the pandemic. And I told you I was in a pickle, and even offered to Habitat $200,000 in inventory if they would get a grant to refurbish their store, get some space to store it, and I would do my 40 hours of community service selling it for them. They never responded. So I'm here tonight telling you the deal is basically dead in the water, could be extended, but I'm out of money.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva, for your participation.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you. Ron, not a question, but a comment. If and when the time comes, I will attest to the fact that you were told, you were shorted and told that it would be made up in the next round. And so I'm not sure when that opportunity comes, but when the time comes, I'm a witness to that conversation.
Well, thank you for that. I'm still interested in getting out. I would really like to exit and break my rear view mirrors, not to ever look back.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva.
Now I have to say it. I'll be back.
So before we return back to the phone, is there anyone here who would like to participate?
Dustin Darden, is it okay if I remove this plastic barrier so I can see you?
No, please do not remove it.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about tyranny and incremental tyranny and how you're participating in it. These signs you put on the wall indicate on what a person is and is not allowed to do. You actually put on that wall that you can't carry a piece of paper that's bigger than 8.5 by 11 into this chamber and display it. That's incremental tyranny. Yesterday I had a piece of paper on. On the paper it said, "The vaccine is a bioweapon." Through the chair, Mr. Weddleton went out and spoke to a security guard. I believe his name was Bob or Rob Hickle. And he came and informed me that Mr. Weddleton told him that I could not hold a piece of paper that said the vaccine is a bioweapon. This is incremental tyranny. This was after I was a victim of a Class A misdemeanor perpetuated by, through the chair, Mr. Felix Rivera, in censoring my speech of petitioning the government for redress of grievances with topics that were pertaining to property that was being rezoned, redistricted. I was making a request that you take the advice of making an amendment to the motion, which was on the table, to use the fire department as a blueprint for not having 5G radioactive towers on the property, because the fire department in the United States of America has made a deal where they disallow 5G towers from being on their facilities where these firefighters work 24 hours a day in some cases. I wanted to use that as a blueprint, and Mr. Rivera censored me. So I called a lawyer, and I filed a request for a lawsuit, and then I called APD, and I reported this crime to the Anchorage Police Department, which is a Class A misdemeanor, interference with constitutional rights, AS 1176110. So if anybody witnessed last night, you can contact me on the Facebook, and I'd like your witness.
Thank you for your participation.
Any questions?
I do not see any. Okay, let's go back, Travis, to Mr. Latrone on the phone.
Welcome to the voicemail of...
Thank you, Travis. Are there any other members of the public who would like to participate? If not, we will move on to member comments, and we will start with the folks on the phone. Ms. Kennedy?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, what was the question?
We've moved on to Assembly member comments. Would you like to comment at
Thank
this
you.
time?
No, thank you. No further comments except for my congratulations to both the new chair and the new vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Mr. Perez-Verdia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to share my congratulations also to our new acting chair and acting vice chair. Looking forward to working with both of you in your new capacity. I also wanted to share that I had a good meeting today with Mayor-elect Bronson and his transition team, and there were a number of issues that I feel like that we're going to be able to work on together. And so just wanted to share with the public that that I had a good meeting with him, and looking forward to him taking office next month. And my understanding is a number of the other Assembly members have or plan to meet with him. So with that, just want to wish everybody a good night or a good day, I guess. It's not night yet. And that's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Perez-Verdia. Mr. Peterson?
And I'd also like to congratulate you and Mr. Consent on your new positions of leadership. And that's the only comment I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll move on to Ms. Allard.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to congratulate you and Mr. Constant as well. I look forward to everything that we have to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It has been my honor to serve as chair for the last 2-ish years. One of my goals as chair was to leave the legislative branch of the municipality of Anchorage in a stronger and better place than when I found it. And history will be the judge, but I think I have been successful in that, and that's in no small part due to the work of the clerk's office and the Assembly Council and all their collaboration with me. And that's one of my joys of this position, is working with the clerk and with Mr. Gates and all of the wonderful leadership that we have. Also working with several vice chairs, including Mr. Weddleton, now the chair, and then our acting mayor. I know that the new chair and vice chair will strive and do the same that I did, which is to leave the legislative branch in a better place. I'm excited to just be a member of this body. It's sort of a weird feeling, but it's going to give me an opportunity to get in a little bit of a good trouble that maybe I wasn't able to do so before as chair. And speaking to one of the comments we had during audience participation, just for the record, I asked Mr. Weddleton as vice chair to speak to security, so it wasn't Mr. Weddleton that instigated that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Mr. Dunbar?
Thank you, Ms. LaFrance. We've entered the former chair portion of the evening here. I want to echo the congratulations of my colleagues for the new chair and vice chair. I also want to congratulate Mr. Rivera and Mr. Weddleton for a really tremendous job I think they did during the past very challenging period that we are hopefully starting to emerge from. And I'll say to you, Felix, having now done it twice, it is a weird feeling and it lasts a little while, going back to being out of that chair. But I am very confident in the job that Ms. LaFrance is going to do, and I was very appreciative of the job that you did in the years prior. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar.
Mr. France, you're recognized.
Thank you to my colleagues for choosing me as acting chair. I am honored to serve in this role. Thank you to Mr. Rivera and Mr. Weddleton for your leadership during what, as Mr. Dunbar said, has been a very challenging time for our community. No one wanted a pandemic. We've never dealt with one before. We've made some difficult decisions. I believe those decisions have saved lives. I look forward to collaboration between the Assembly and the incoming administration as we work together honestly, openly, and transparently to solve the problems facing our community. I also had a good meeting with Mayor-elect Bronson and his team today. We have a number of issues facing our community, such as homelessness, the resurgence of opioids, state revenue reductions that shift the costs of services to Anchorage taxpayers. These are some of our challenges. To paraphrase the acting mayor's report from last night, to move Anchorage forward, we must work together. Businesses are open, our economy is recovering, COVID cases are down, the vaccination rate is up, and it's summer in Alaska. The future is bright, and I look forward to working with all of you in this new role. Thank you. Mr. Constant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to start, I would respond back to a little bit of the public comment we have. I checked in with the police chief the fire chief, and there are no restrictions on cell towers on Anchorage's fire departments. And so, for what that's worth. And I am grateful to my peers for supporting me as vice chair, and I thank you, Mr. Rivera, for what really, as I spoke to you earlier today, has been a hell of a year and one of the most trying times, and you sat in the hottest of hot seats on this body, and you fared very well, surely better than I would have. My mouth would have probably gotten me in trouble. And Mr. Weddleton as well, thank you for your great service in the vice chair role. And I look forward to the next year or time moving forward where we move forward the values of the Assembly as the policy of the municipality and collaborate with the administration on achieving the critical goals, the biggest one of which, of course, we all recognize is figuring out the path forward on the homelessness demobilization and where we're going to move folks. And I will leave just with a very brief thought on kind of philosophies. A pen isn't mightier than a sword. Pens don't do battle, nor swords do poetry. Mighty is the hand that knows when to pick up the pen or to pick up the sword. We are a well-trained, effective body for this assembly. We're supported by an incredible clerk and staff, and I look forward to continuing the process of coming out of the pandemic and restoring our economy and going to new heights. Anchorage's best days are ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Zalatil?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to the new leadership of the body. And I'll just end briefly tonight with saying I'm glad to have my Midtown partner back for some good trouble.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatil. Mr. Weddleton?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, congrats to Suzanne and Chris. And, I don't think I got really the worst part of the pandemic. I think I've only been vice chair since November. Is that right? I don't know. I can't keep track, but it hasn't been that bad. But, I learned a lot working with Felix and really appreciate that. And for those who don't know, until recently, he was less than half my age, and now he has moved beyond that. He did a lot of things it would never have occurred to me that were important, I think, to strengthen us as a legislative branch, and I really appreciate that, and that's something that's going to be retained by this body forever. It really drops on Felix, and then also the opportunity to get to know the staff better after 5 years and working more closely, even just through Teams meetings. But I really, I knew it was a good team, but to get to know everyone a little bit better, we really enjoyed that too. But I'm really looking forward to being back into my favorite seat, so thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Weddleton, and thank you for the gavel. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you all. We're adjourned.